today on the show, we have a fun guest. I'm excited. Actor, musician, storyteller, Brentley Gore. I was gonna say I'm California themed, but I'm actually Hawaiian themed, but it's kind of close in some ways. Uh, our guest was a part of a really classic uh show, part of pop culture, NBC's California Dreams. We'll get into that at the end here, but it was a counterpart to another show that was on the air at a similar time, if not at the same time, I think. Saved by the Bell. But we're here to have a fun
Yep.
chat. Brentley, thanks for your time. It's great to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
So the music at the ready is really good, and it's great to be able to put any kind of project out, but to have it be met with success is a really big deal. So how does it feel to have the music out and for people to be able to enjoy?
Well, it's been a while. It's been a long time coming. Is kind of how I've been sharing because, this at the ready was has been with probably the top musicians and producers and songwriters that I've ever worked with, apart
Okay.
from California Dreams. California Dreams had some masterful musicians and some legends in its own right. But a lot of this record was a long time in the works, kind of just sat on hard drives for a while. And so I just had to get it out and get it released because it was a compilation of about three or four record deals that were never got released. So it was time to just get those released. And so I've been really happy to be able to get this out and get it behind me, really, because like I said, it's been sitting on hard drives for a long time.
So what has the response been from fans, from people that you know, either from the show or know you for other projects that you've done?
Uh, just that it was obviously done at a very high level. Then they could tell that. I've always sort of had been in my creative endeavors. The response for this record um, has been overwhelming with the amount of people that are sort of responding to it. I wouldn't say music business is that's a whole nother conversation. I mean, we're in a different day and age than the 90s when I was coming up, you know. So a lot of it now is more just fan base, individual fan bases. And but those people that know me and have been with me through the years have been more than generous with, kind words and responses and enjoying the record. I hear about it from people every day.
That's very cool. Now you mentioned something interesting. You came up and started your career in the late 80s, 90s, and doing this and music and other things. And you mentioned something interesting I would love to get your perspective on because things have changed now. A lot of stuff is like social media driven, fan base that way. Some labels don't even, or most labels don't even, unless you're such and such, do
Yeah.
the 5 touch tone point deal. I had Tom Nichols, on, and we talked about this. Like, he got a record deal after X number of years, but he's
Yeah.
having to do all this touring and all these different things. But like, what has your experience been putting music out and going about it in such a different way, probably than what most of may have done when you were coming up?
Yeah. Um, Great question. And I could talk about this for hours on end. Love Thomas, by the way. Really proud of what he's accomplished because he really, for most of us, you really do have to hit the ground running. You have to be your own PR label these days.
Yeah.
You can't depend on the company to sort of get behind you. And just to kind of touch on that, um, there's a couple of people on Spotify that have 4 million, 5 million plus followers. And a lot of them, quite a few of those viewers and fans came from TikTok videos.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that's who made them. And they're not even making music to promote. They're making content and then having the music in the background.
I totally understand that. It's interesting, like looking at the success that you've had, um, and others have had who are doing it the way that you're doing it. I think gone are the days of the labels pretty much, unless you're such and such, and you just have millions and millions of dollars. But I understand even those people like the Taylors and all these others still have a massive responsibility to pay people back who are putting money into like putting these things
Yeah, I
on,
mean,
it's crazy.
yeah, and not to dive into the deep dark, you know, entity of what the music is these days and
No,
everything that's being exposed and all that, but I will say this, that there's always been a fight between, you know, how much is a company going to invest in you on their return for their money. I at one point had a huge record deal for BMG. This was after California Dreams in Germany. That was offered to me, that my manager at the time said, you don't want a German deal, you want an American deal. And I had turned it down. And it was a $1 million record deal. Now, that's not, we're giving you $1 million. It
no,
means they're willing to invest $1 million in you. Press, you know, touring, all of that. Now, that was a major record deal. And that just goes to show you that it takes $1 million to attempt to break an artist. No individual artist is going to make that happen unless they just come from a lot of money and they're going to do it. These days, if you have a solid fan base and you are catering to your own individual needs as a fan base, the individual needs of the fans, you can actually have a career and you
yeah,
can do it. Will you make a ton of money? Supposedly, people that have a million plays a day can make 30 grand a month. Does that happen very much?
very
No.
rarely, yeah.
So, the question lies in is, what are you selling? And I'm very well versed in rock and roll history and music history. It was when I came up, it was just a different day and age. I mean, it was like that all ended with Nirvana
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
know it just ended because what are we selling? We sold CDs and albums at the end. We went from albums to cassettes to CDs and then downloads. And then as soon as the downloads happen, the only thing you're selling is going to be merch and your ticket sales. And that
that's very
takes a
true.
lot of money. And you got to be young. I've done van tours in bands, and it's grind. It's grueling. It's not easy. It's not a glamorous life. You're not Aerosmith or Lenny Kravitz touring on, jets and staying in nice hotels.
No, no, you're not. Well, it's interesting. Art Alexakis said the same thing. It's like nobody buys records, CDs anymore.
Yeah,
Very little. And Tom said the same thing. It's like,
yeah.
he's out grinding and making it happen,
Mm-hmm.
with the success of the American Pie films and all the
Sure.
other things that he's done. And of course, you with your show and all of
Yeah.
that, like that, you've been able to parlay a lot of that, and just I feel be successful. So the question lies, with the new music out, people are
Mm-hmm.
listening. What are you hoping that fans appreciate the most about your music, or get from something that you've written?
For me, it's not necessary. It's change. It's evolving. Brett. You know, it's really evolving. It's like now it's the individual contact that I have with people that a song has impact on their life, and it advances their consciousness. It
Right.
makes them feel good when they're down in the dumps.
Yeah.
You know, it's a release for them. That's the benefit for me. And I approach it from an artist standpoint. I really am that in my heart. You know, I'm an artistic, creative person. I'm not a business guy, really. Um, my dad told me early on that Sammy Davis Jr. said, "Never take business out of show business." I think that was his quote. And I've always tried to do that, but it's not an easy thing when I'm not like, "Hey, Brett, how can I get your money from you?" You know, but if I want to keep, well, if I want to keep doing it, I can do it without expecting any money in return. And I'm slightly resolved to find other avenues to have different streams of income instead of only purely basing my stream of income on a t-shirt sale
Right.
or a ticket sale. And that's the hard pill to swallow when you grow up thinking, well, you know, I mean, Adam Levine and I came up together, and he got the deal with Clive Davis, and so he was off and running. You know, you had to have that, period,
For sure.
to have a substantial career. Without that, it's just you're just a worker.
Yeah.
So I know that's a lot. It's a lot. I have a lot of thoughts on this
No,
these
I
days.
appreciate it.
You know what I mean? And yeah. So what do I hope people hope to get out of it? I just hope that the people that want to hear it and enjoy it and can appreciate the fact that there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that went into that record that I've just put out that were other people gave me. I did get some of that goodness from having deals. But at the end of the day, it's just heart and soul. And sometimes, I've made a demo in my studio here and put that out, and I've gotten more response out of that than the high end record that I made with these guys. So really, it's just a response of mutual respect for what they get out of the song.
I love it. Well, I had a chance to listen to a few songs. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And I was a fan of your show and all the other things you've done. So as we come around the corner here and start to wrap, I want to talk about your show because it was a great show. It ran for a few seasons. You guys had a reunion recently, and that was very cool, featured in People Magazine. Like, take me back to the time when that show hits. It's on at the same time, as other shows, and it's a very popular show. Uh, it's a fun show. There's a lot of great nostalgia in it going back to the 90s and just thinking about that. But what was that like for you guys as a cast when you're putting this show out and people are watching it? Because that was a very interesting time for television for sure.
Great question.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and thank you for taking me back there, because you said, "What was it like?" I mean, tell me what it was like when that happened. Boy, my world changed, right? I mean, it was like I I moved to LA. I'd been auditioning, getting nothing, and then all of a sudden I got offered this show, and it was an NBC show, and I at the time was roommates with Jeremy London or something like that, or Kevin Conley, one of those guys, and we were just auditioning, and I was like, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. I've been there a year, nothing's happening. Then
Yeah,
all of a
you're
sudden,
like, I'm ready to go back home. It's been a year and I'm not famous yet.
you're young, you don't know. And I was actually had joined a band in Anchorage, Alaska. I was actually got a plane ticket, and I was going to go be in this band in Anchorage, Alaska. Well, I just was like out of here. And then I got offered California Dreams. So we went we got the show. We're all sitting there. They gave us the word, um, and your life changes. You're not waiting tables. You're not, trying to make ends meet. You're showing up to NBC with your own parking spot next to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Jay Leno, and you have your own show. And not to mention that, but it's based around music. And so we're doing mall tours and meet and greets, and you're a teen guy. And so really it was life changing and life altering. And I would be a different person if I hadn't gone through that, for sure. I mean, who knows what would have happened. But I look back on that time. There's an innocence to that day and age, because I mean, as innocent as Hollywood can be, but there's an innocence to that because it's not so exposed as the internet. Once the internet happened, that just exposes everything,
Right.
and it's even getting more exposed. So, it was a blast. We had a blast. We'd go out. We had plenty of money. We were starting to get famous. We everyone knew who we were. It was like the gamut from like Leonardo doing Titanic all the way down to us at California Dreams.
You mentioned the mall tours. I remember those very vividly.
Yeah, we did Texas, and we did a bunch, but MCA Records was the label that put us out on the record. And we didn't have a band. We'd sing to tracks. I still have the
Was that the
DAT.
same level as Tiffany and Debbie Gibson? I
It
think
was,
it was, because I remember talking to her and she was saying that she mentioned your show, and I couldn't remember if I don't know that you toured together necessarily, but that was like the Double Dares and
yeah.
Hidden Temples and all of these shows would go to malls and perform and let
I mean,
everyday
thousands
civilians. Yeah.
thousands of kids and screaming fans, because you're on TV and you don't realize. I mean, California Dreams was on 48 countries, syndicated in 48
Yeah,
countries.
that's crazy.
So I'd go to the gas station, and the guy that worked at the gas station this happened to me. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I lived in Bombay. I know who you are." I was just like, "Whoa!" It blew my mind. He's like, "My kid would freak out." And so yeah, the mall tours were amazing, and we met a lot of people, and it didn't last a long time because that was also generating money, or the record company needed to put out money, but the record company told NBC they needed to put out the money to support the mall tour, and NBC said, "No, MCA, you need to put the money out to support the mall tour." So we didn't continue that on into the years. That kind of died out, and then we just did the show.
Yeah. And you keep in touch with most of your castmates today.
I was just on talking to Jenny Kwan today, because they people still want to book some shows, some California Dreams shows. So we're working on what we're going to do there, and kind of combining the two. Doing both of that, where I can play some of my music and California Dreams music, is a good deal. It's a good time because you can do a little bit of my own music, and then we get some of the California Dreams fans that get to see us. And so we're planning on maybe doing some more of those shows here, again, like we did in New York.
Crazy. What a time. I mean, it's so interesting. My friend who has a show just went to 90s Con in Massachusetts, and all of these shows were there. And Hey Dude is now starting to make a comeback. Christine and David. Interesting. Do you guys get called upon to do the cons much, or maybe individualistic, depending? I know a lot of you guys have families, kids, and have sort of departed, so to speak, from that world, but the popularity of those things are all coming back, your show included.
It's both. I think we're starting to get some of that. I haven't done a ton of those, but we're starting to get more interest because a lot of people are like people that came to our show go to all these 90s cons and
Yeah.
nostalgia cons, and they're all wearing California Dreams shirts and stuff. So we even have like street team out there being like, well, we want to see these guys. So I think we're probably going to do some more of those. But yes, like you said, I do have a family. I have a child, and um, we're gonna Kelly's in Texas. She has a lot of kids, and um Michael, a lot we all would do it. I think it's just a matter of we didn't really jump on the bandwagon in the beginning, but now
Right.
people are starting to talk about it and really want us to do some of these. So I think this year we're gonna probably try to hit some of those.
It's interesting, like even like a lot of actors, I can't remember his name, who was in Flight of the Navigator, like that, he just shows up to cons and people line up for miles and miles and miles and miles. I'm interested because, it's just fascinating. I think it's so cool.
How cool is that show? I loved that show. When that show came out, I was like, why didn't I think of that?
I
That
know,
show was
right?
hilarious. What a great show that was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all so smart. Well, congratulations, Brentley. The music at the ready is available everywhere to stream. And where can people connect with you if they want to on social media and all of that?
I have my website up. So brentleyGore.com gives you everything. So if you just go to my name, you can find all my Insta and Facebook and X and it's all there and linkable. I'm pretty searchable, and that's good. And that's how I communicate with most people. Um, isn't that how we all communicate with
Now
most
that's
people?
the economy. That's how we do it today. It's
I mean,
selfies and
yeah,
DMs and IMs, and that's how
yeah,
your publicists contact. I mean, that's just the way we operate. It's crazy to think anything
yeah,
else, especially being a kid of the 90s. Very cool. Well, Brentley, thank you
yeah.
for your time. Congratulations on the success in the music, and hopefully we'll meet up at one of these cons or a concert soon here. Thank you so much.
I like that. Appreciate your time, and thank you. Take it easy.
Absolutely.